And welcome back to politics. Although I call it politics, my name is Presh, and the title of this episode is Donald Trump Wins the US Election. And sorry for releasing this episode a few days late. I wanted the full results to be in before I made any comment, and unfortunately, some numbers still aren't in, but I had to pull the trigger on recording the episode at some point. Imagine, I don't know, it's January of next year and I still haven't recorded a new episode. It would be piss poor, right? So at some point I had to, and this is that point now. Anyway, some cleanup from last week. So last week I was speaking about our useless Minister of Home Affairs and his idiotic plan to bring Ukrainians into South Africa. This week I found out that he actually has a doctorate, and therefore I apologize for not using his honorific title. So, Dr. Dipshit, you are an awful minister, and I hope that you are thrown out of parliament as soon as possible. Alright. Then we get into the news for the week. Well, I decided to forego all other news and make this an election special. That's what's the word? Perhaps to my detriment, because I'm a few days late, as I said, and it would have probably behooved me to just make this a regular episode, but it is what it is, alright? And of course, the big story this week is the US election, and I've been wondering from which angle I'm going to attack this, because there's a lot of hot takes and just a lot of bullshit being said all around the place. So I thought, let's get back to the basics, right? And the American government is split into three branches. Number one being the Supreme Court, number two being Congress, and number three being the presidency. And that's the order that I want to speak about it in this due to the election, right? So firstly, the Supreme Court is not voted per se, right? They are appointments by the president and then confirmed by the Senate. So, the people that you vote for are the people who are the people who install the Supreme Court people. So it is quote unquote voted because you vote for the people who do it, but these are appointments, and these are actually lifetime appointments. So that means they either they either retire or they die. I guess you can resign as well, but it's very unlikely that they would, because, like I said, it's a lifetime appointment. Right. So the Supreme Court wasn't quote unquote on the ballot because no one is nearing retirement, so there's no reason to talk about that. Like, for example, in 2020, Joe Biden, the 2016 election, I should say, Ruth Bader Ginsburg was on the verge of death, and because of she wanted to be replaced by the first woman president, and obviously Hillary Clinton lost. So basically what I'm trying to get at is 2016 the Supreme Court was on the ballot. In the 2024 the Supreme Court was not on the ballot, right? So there's no reason to talk about it for this election, but it would have been a talking point in previous and possibly future elections. Not even possibly, definitely in future elections, right? Number two is Congress, which is made up of the House and the Senate, as opposed to a parliament, which is how most countries work, right? And I want to start off with the Senate. Now, these elections are staggered, meaning not every seat was up for election. But the Republicans flipped 4 seats, meaning that they take outright control of the Senate with 53 senators to the Democrats' 46. Now you'll notice that this doesn't add up to 100, because even though I waited a few days, there's still one Senate seat that hasn't been decided yet. It's leaning Democrat, but like I said, even if the Democrats win, the Republicans still have control of the Senate. So, yeah. Now on to the House. All the votes have similarly not been counted, but it's projected that the Republicans will also win a majority. They formally control the House now. They control both the Senate and the House. Now they're holding on to it, right? And this is useful because if a president wants to pass legislation, the Congress is who votes on it. So Trump having a majority in Congress means he can pass whatever legislation that he wants to. For example, this is not a good thing for the LGBT community, as Trump has already spoken about a blanket ban on gender affirming care. Any cruel anti-trans measures he puts forward will more than likely get passed by the Senate because they're all on the same page as him. So this was really a historic loss. Well, we can actually get into it now, right? Number 3 is the presidency. And I thought that we should examine the reasons for Trump winning / Kamala losing using some facts and some speculation, right? And I'm usually very good at saying, okay, this is a fact and this is speculation, but I've been extra careful to do that now, right? So I want you to think about the argument that I'm about to make as building a house. And with any house, we need a foundation to build upon. And the foundation I'm choosing to build my argument upon are the turnout numbers. So in 2020, Trump had roughly 74 million votes and maintained roughly 74 million votes. So he didn't gain or lose anything. In 2020, Biden had 81 million, roughly 81 million votes. And this election, Kamala got 71 million votes, meaning she and the Democratic Party lost 10 million votes. Right? The first false reason being put forward for Trump winning is that the American electorate has taken a right-wing turn towards Trumpism. But this is a false narrative because even though Kamala lost 10 million votes, Trump didn't go up by 10 million or anything really. Like I said, his vote share stayed the same. Those people just chose to remain at home. So this election was a rebuke of the Democratic Party rather than an embrace of Trumpism. The second false reason being put forward for Trump winning is that Joe Rogan's endorsement helped Trump win. Unfortunately, Joe Rogan had no tangible impact on this election because, like I said, Trump's numbers remained the same as before a Joe Rogan endorsement. I know all of us in the podcasting business would like for it to be true, but podcasting is not as influential as people think it is. I would also point to his endorsement of Bernie Sanders in 2020, which didn't move the needle either. So, yes, podcasting not as big as certain people may think. The third false reason being put forward for Trump winning is that the third parties, especially Dr. Jill Stein's Green Party, took votes away from Kamala Harris. This has always been a false narrative because people are allowed to vote for whomever they want to. They don't owe the Democratic Party anything. But it's especially false in this election because if you add up all the third-party votes and give it to Kamala, it still wouldn't be enough for her to win the popular vote. So, yeah, up the third parties. But this is as far as I can go with data. Unfortunately, we don't have the reasons as to why people stayed at home. So this section is just my speculation about, what are the reasons that the Democratic voters stayed at home, right? Reason number 3 why Democratic voters stayed at home: a lack of democracy. Perhaps the voters felt cheated by Kamala being the nominee. No one voted for her to be the candidate. Her 2020 primary campaign was a huge disaster and got extremely lucky that Biden chose her as his vice president. There was more than enough time from when Biden dropped out till the election for the Democrats to have a primary and make sure that they were putting forward the best candidate for the job, and they refused to do so. And that's how we got Kamala. right? Reason number 2 why Democratic voters stayed at home. She ran a center-right campaign. If, for any reason, you believe Kamala is a radical Marxist, that is because you have consumed far too much right-wing content and it has turned your brain into mush. By any objective measure, her economic, immigration, and social policies are center-right. She was endorsed and campaigned with Dick Cheney, for fuck's sakes. Her only left-wing policy was about abortion. And reason number 1 why Democratic voters stayed at home is Palestine. Voters watched the Democratic Party fund and cheer on as Israel committed a genocide for an entire year. Obviously, there's going to be a large number of people who find it morally unconscionable to vote for them. Did the Democratic Party think that there would be no consequences for their inaction and cruelty in relation to Palestine? It really is boggles the mind that they didn't think that it would be a big issue. You know, we have a bunch of like college students, kids that were protesting on their campuses, and the Biden administration got like a bunch of police to, what's the word, like fuck up the protests. And yeah, why would these people vote for you if this is how you treat them? It's yeah. Anyway, where do we go from here? So, and I'm speaking as a quote-unquote left-winger, and I'm saying quote-unquote because I am a left-winger. I'm saying the Democratic Party may not want to hear from a left-winger. That's why I was bringing that up, right? So where do we being the Democratic Party, even though I'm not a member, in the short term, well, Joe Biden is still the president at the moment. He could forgive student debt, codify Roe v. Wade, and try to push through any other left-wing ideas he can before Trump takes over. Hopefully, this leaves voters with a better taste in their mouths than they have had this year. In the long term, you would hope that they learn a lesson and tack to the left in terms of policy for their next election. But they neither learned that lesson in 2016 or 2020. So that is my advice for the Democratic Party. Tack to the left of where your current policies are. Right? My advice to the ordinary person is to join your local chapter of the Democratic Socialists of America. And if you don't have a local chapter, then start one and encourage other people to join you. 10 million people is more than enough to start a new party and be serious about it. They should start challenging at a local level and build power through that. And this election should be the final straw in a bunch of straws. It's really disgraceful that this is the second time that Donald Trump has won the presidency. And just being on Twitter, I saw a tweet that was like, said something to the effect of, tell me, how could have Kamala run a different campaign? It's the voters that failed her. And it's so mind-bogglingly stupid, right? It's not the candidate who's bad, who, just spouts mealy-mouthed bullshit all the time, that can't go through a speech without, just getting into waffle. It's the voters who were turned off by her. And that is the arrogance of the Democratic Party, and that's another thing they need to kind of clamp down upon. It's everyone else is stupid except me. And, in relation to the right wing, they're correct. Those are very stupid people, but it's the arrogance and condescension that's the issue in how you treat other people. And yes, that's about all I can say on this election. Also want to say congratulations to Mr. Trump. Another victory in the bag. Like he said, we're gonna win so much, you're gonna get tired of us winning. And yeah. Anyway, thank you for listening. Please remember to rate, review, subscribe, give a like, etc. Importantly, needs to be a 5-star review. You're as dumb as our Minister of Home Affairs if you don't give us a 5-star review. You can find all our links at PAICIP.com. That's PAICIP.com. Please tell a friend. Tell that friend to tell a friend. Tell a family member. Yeah, goodbye.